Well, here we are again, with me making a video on a toy that's been out for ages, because of my own misguided, I'm too old for this mentality back in the early aughts. And then again, we all have to start somewhere, so this figure is bound to be new to someone, right? Not to me specifically, because I did own another version of this a couple years back, but I guess back then it was new to me, so my point still stands. Before I get into all of that though, I'd like to give a shout out to Wine and Jazz for becoming a patron. Thank you very much. It legitimately means a lot, thank you. Okay, so this here is Henkei Onslaught, resplendent Takara repaint of Universe Onslaught. And much like the majority of Takara repaints from roughly a decade ago, it's the clear winner in terms of deco. Note to any potential well-actuallys folks might be typing out, I know there was a Universe 2.0 repaint into Hardhead that was mostly green and beige, but that's supposed to be Hardhead. This is Onslaught. Stop it. No. Bad. In this case, the better deco-ness of Henkei is particularly interesting to me because from what I can remember and see in the photos of the Hasbro release that I've looked up, the paint placement might actually be identical, right down to most of the colors they used. What really sets the Henkei figure apart is that plastic color. Hasbro went with a somewhat light bluish gray that looked fine, but I don't know, it ended up feeling a little flat to me. Takara, meanwhile, chose this gorgeous, deep, vibrant, metallic-looking blue, and it's so good. Like I said, I think the painted details, like the plating around the windshield and whatnot, are using the same layout and colors as the Hasbro version. It's just that now they all pop so much better on the darker blue tones. It looks amazing in hand, honestly. Moving past the colors for now, this is definitely not G1 Onslaught's vehicle mode, and that's absolutely a positive thing for me. It makes sense that as a standalone Transformers figure that doesn't actually combine, Onslaught would have a vehicle that does more than just haul other vehicles around. And really, a beefy armored SWAT vehicle makes perfect sense to me. Kinda makes me wish we got this version of Onslaught in toy form more often because he'd go really well with Barricade. It looks plenty mean on its own via the bulk and having 6 wheels, but then you add the bladed bits on the front that also articulate, and the turret up top, and, well, then this is starting to look a little bit less like a real-world law enforcement vehicle. Or, to be more cynical, maybe it's supposed to be an idealized version of a real-world law enforcement vehicle. My point is, this vehicle mode looks great, and I think it fits very well thematically with Onslaught. Being an ultra-class Transformers toy from somewhere around the 2010s, there are also lights and sounds that you can mess around with if you're willing to open them up and install batteries. Or if the battery compartment isn't a mess after about 10 plus years. If we move this shield, there's a button on top of the guns that you can push to set off one of 2 looping sound effects. You get machine gun fire or sirens. And it also makes stuff light up. I do also actually think it's really cool how when the machine gun sound is going off, it's the lights that are in line with the machine gun that light up. And when the siren's going off, it's the emergency lights up top. Emergency. What emergency is this thing going to be responding to? A lot of Universe Onslaughts ended up with a non-looping siren, which was really funny and kind of sad, but not this one. As you can hear and heard before, it actually works. It doesn't just go whoop. And another thing that's cool is if we replace the shield real quick, there's actually this little flap here that has this little nub here, and the idea is that you can push this in and it'll still push the button that activates the lights and sounds. And because of the venting and the way that the lights poke through here, it doesn't even block the lights. That's really clever, actually. I like that a lot. Also, you can get him to make engine and driving noises if you spin this one suspiciously unpinned wheel quickly enough. It kinda gets in the way of smooth rolling, but it doesn't really bother me. When you spin it, better to just go back and forth. Let's do this. He's a big bugger too, because Universe Ultra Class, which both fits for Onslaught and for the kind of vehicle this is supposed to be. I don't have any classics or Universe Combaticons to compare him to. I also don't really think they made any, but I could be wrong. But here is Breakdown. That's close enough, right? Maybe sneak in a GDO hotspot? Duck Tank? Awful upstairs neighbors and equally awful LaGuardia air traffic controllers are in rare form tonight. So if you hear any noise while I'm doing this, that's what it is. But before we do this, gotta plug the Coffee and Patreon. Links to both at the end of the video as well as down in the description. Any support is appreciated, but if you'd like to support the channel without paying money, which I get, you could also do the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe. Now, to transform Henkei Onslaught here. It is very straightforward, but also very cool. You don't have to, but I'm gonna pop the shield off just to get it out of the way. We'll put that off to the side. Now, going to, before I forget, take these little headlights, fold them down, take these flaps back here, bring them out, and then pull out here a little bit so that we can get these tabs free and flip this panel up. Hush. Now, this can just come up, and then this folds in, and then this will slide. No, okay, not going to slide it yet. I want to get these out of the way first, so just going to leave that like that. Now, I'm going to pull these bits out, and then there's a tab here that this wheel section is attached to. You want to kind of slide it off to the side. There you can see the slot, and right there is the tab. So pull that out, and with that pulled out, now this whole thing can can rotate down. And this little cage thing normally plugs in here. I think it came unplugged when I was detaching the leg, but this piece opens up, then this wheel well folds in and around, and just tucks in there, and then this comes back down and closes up here, just pegs in right there. This piece can fold, well, this piece actually folds around, and then this tab goes into this narrower slot here, and doesn't really like to hold. I find what works best is to get that situated, then pull this out slightly, this little gray section, and that adds just a little bit more grip to things so that this doesn't pop out quite as easily. And I think that's just this particular figure that I have in my hand. I don't know that that's universal across all of them. But anyway, take this flap and push that back up. Take this flap, that folds underneath to give you a cleaner foot. And that is one leg all taken care of. Other leg, same deal. You want to slide this wheel out. Then you can bring this down. And something to note, when going into vehicle mode, there is this black piece here. It's like a clip. This actually goes inside this little gray piece here. You can kind of see it right in there. So when you're going into vehicle mode, you want to make sure that that is clipped in, and then you can kind of, like I find you have to kind of hold that in place as you get this situate, like push down here to keep it in place, and then slide this tab over that. But it works. Anyway, slide this out, unfold the leg, and with the legs all unfolded, now this piece can slide up there to just get out of the way. Okay. This little cage thing opens up, wheel folds in, this closes back up, but it's best to not push it in all the way just so that this clips in a little bit better. This goes up, this comes up, and this folds around, and there we have legs. Okay, now for the upper body section, I'm going to take this little panel here. This just folds back between the guns. And now here, I'm going to split the front of the vehicle. And that splits open. And this is actually pretty cool. I like how this works. This piece comes over, and as this shifts, it's hard to see in action, but basically this comes around, and the gray piece that the arm is attached to actually shifts up. Like there's this, you can just kind of see it in there. There's this bluish plastic cylinder. This piece slides down so that it's down here, and when you rotate it up, it slides back up to get more in line properly for the robot mode. Also, you want to be careful with these shoulder bits that you can get those situated. And again, it's hard to show. Oh, here you can see it from this side. So here it's all the way down, and here it's all the way up. And then again, you want to bring this out, and you kind of want to like rotate things as you bring it around, just to make sure it can get past the different bits here. And it is a little bit, there we go, a little bit tricky to do, but not bad. And while we're here, we'll just flip out the fists, and you can just leave the arms like that. And that gives him the gorilla arms, but I prefer to, you know, rotate them so that they're a little bit more typical. He doesn't have the gorilla arms. And lastly, you bring this down, and there's this little clip up in here that now goes over that clip that was going around the little cage pit bits. And that just plugs in like that to close up the upper body. And there we have Henkei Onslaught. Oh, also I like to flare these out because I just think it makes them look a little cooler. Now that is one very respectable transformation. It's not very complex, but it is very clever. Like with how the sides of the alt mode fold in and around to create almost the entirety of the lower legs, or the way the shoulders automatically shift upwards so that they align with the torso more naturally. It all comes together to make a somewhat stylized, compared to the G1 cartoon anyway, but still very recognizable Onslaught that looks just so good. It's very chunky and intimidating looking, especially with those big spiky shoulders that I prefer to pull the blades out for to make them look even spikier. The thighs are maybe a little proportionally skinny, but they kind of fit with the biceps and head. Kind of makes him look like a big guy who's wearing some really heavy armor. I also get a kick of how the turret cannons play the part of the more classic style Onslaught back cannons. I mean, yeah, it's sort of an iconic look for him, but I like how they changed so much yet still left little nods like this. Though something that sucks with this figure specifically that was not pointed out in the listing, which I'm not broken up about it, but it's a thing I noticed. This particular gun, like you can see, the guns are a bit off. This one looks like it may have been glued back in place, because that is like fused in there. This one's got a little bit more wiggle to it, so yeah, they're just off. Just something I've noticed. My only real complaints with his looks in this mode come down to stuff that's probably pretty obvious. I'm not a fan of the gaps in the forearms being situated so that they're front and center if you try to give him standard elbows. It's not a huge deal, but I do wish the fists folded out from like the side, or the inside rather, and that would have left the forearms a bit more solid looking, but this is what they did. I'm also just a little bit annoyed by his knees and hips using drastically different colors. If the knees and hips were both gray, or both black, it'd be fine. But this kind of makes it look like he's wearing bike shorts. It is what it is. If that's what Onslaught wants to wear, that's fine. But it does kind of clash a bit with the whole bulky armor motif. And lastly, there's the weird knee gaps. Right in here. I get why they're there, because of the transformation and where they place the knee joints. I just wish they weren't quite so pronounced. Maybe it'd be easier to ignore this if the knees could somehow shift forward for robot mode, or if the gray cages used to lock in the wheel kibble, which honestly I think is kind of unnecessary. If those could just flip up and peg around the inside of the knees instead, that would kind of fill in the gaps. I don't know. I'm just not a fan. What I am a fan of is that head. It's very Onslaught, looking like a mostly black, harshly sculpted angry peanut. Though, unlike his more well-known head design, it's not solely blue like the cartoon, or entirely black like the toy. Here, they mix the two by making the head predominantly black, but adding a sort of frame of paint around the visor and mouthplate. So you get more metallic blue in this case, which is lovely. But the Universe version did a similar trick with the lighter shade that matched that lighter plastic. Sure, some liberties were taken, but he looks delicious either way, and I always appreciate it when the designs are able to deviate from the G1 cartoon. Those lights and sounds from vehicle mode can be used in robot mode too, only now the more noticeable thing that lights up is the visor, and wow does it glow! The gimmick uses the same button on the top of the turret, which is fine, and the lights on the back still go off, which is also fine, but I do kind of wish there was maybe one new sound for the robot mode. I'm sure there are reasons why they stuck with just those two for the button-activated electronics. Maybe too complex for the budget, but I don't know. It would have been nice. Heck, even using something like the siren for the vehicle and gun sounds for robot mode would be cool. But now well. Now, for an older Universe Ultra Class figure, the articulation of this guy's actually really good. He has a rotating head. It only rotates, can't go up and down, can't rotate, or can't pivot side to side, but still, it rotates around. The shoulders can go all the way around on a very clicky ratchet. The shoulder pad can kind of shift a little bit, for whatever that's worth. And the arm can go out to 90 or down to just about 90. You get bicep swivels, elbows that bend. It's hard to see it, but they actually bend a little bit past 90. You also get wrist swivels, which is awesome. And if you want to, you can rotate the fist in like that, I guess. No waist swivel probably because of the electronics. But yeah, no waist swivel. The hips can only go back, they're as far back as they can go, actually. I prefer to give him like a slightly leaning stance because the fact, like, his head is angled down, so by angling the legs back, it makes it look a little bit more like he's looking forward. But yeah, that's as far back as they go, but they can go forward to almost 90 on very clicky ratchets, and then they can go out to, I want to say past. Well, theoretically, they could probably go a little bit past 90, except the arms and leg bulk are getting in the way. But yeah, you can go out to 90. You get thigh rotation, and then the knees can bend significantly well past 90. Like, that's way in there. You kind of got bulk that's getting in the way back here, but like that is a really, really nice knee bend, especially for a guy this bulky. And if you want to, you can twiddle the toe up and down, and that's it. No ankle tilts, but like, given how this thing comes together, I don't really think they could do that, so yeah, it's fine. I almost forgot the scripting. I mean, I totally didn't forget filming because it's in the script now, but almost forgot. He does have accessories. Kind of. I mean, yes, but also, well, okay, so for starters, there's the plate hanging off of his back that covers up the top of the turret. You can leave it there for robot mode, as you can see. You could even leave it on during transformation if you want to, but I just didn't want to risk it popping off. And I do think it's neat how you can still push the button even when it's attached. But what you really want to do with it is you swing out this little thing on his left arm and unplug this, and use this along with this little slot here to plug in this little peg here, and the use the little opening that the siren lights went in before. So you line that up, plug it in, and this goes through here. And now it's a shield. Once again, I'm going to say that this feels pretty on point thematically with the alt mode. And while I'm not sure a big shield would complement a G1 Onslaught super well, it definitely complements this Onslaught. The thing is, it's also kind of, that's it. Given who this is supposed to be and how aggressive the vehicle mode looks, you'd kind of expect a big gun or two, right? Not just a shield? Well, he does have a gun, other than what's stuck to his back, but it's kinda dinky. It's tucked along the right forearm, and you can pop it out with the push of a button. Doink. It's not a bad gimmick, and it's nice that they gave Onslaught a ranged weapon other than one that he can only use when he's picking pocket change up off the ground. But this doesn't quite feel like enough. Yeah, it's an obvious complaint loads of people have almost certainly made before, but I can't help echoing it. This guy needs a big F-off cannon or something. Then again, when you put him next to a modern Deluxe and Voyager, maybe that's enough F-off energy already. He kind of unfurls and expands a bit from that dense, but still large, alt mode. So when he gets bipedal, he becomes something of a leader-sized beast. Seeing him next to TFCC Breakdown really makes me wish we got some proper Universe or Classics Combaticons, even if they didn't combine. Especially if they didn't combine. On a slightly different note, it's kind of funny how he's not too much bigger than Hotspot, but at the same time looks much bigger. I don't know, the big guy look just always suits him. And that's me talking about Henkei Onslaught. Great figure all around, both for its time and even to this day. It's got some cool lights and sounds, a neat transformation, and an appreciable amount of junk. I don't want to poo-poo the US release because ultimately it's the same figure whether you get it from Hasbro or Takara. But that being said, if you have an interest and the means, I would absolutely recommend the Henkei Deco over the Universe version. It just looks so nice. Of course, the Universe version is typically much cheaper and easier to get a hold of. Or maybe not easier, but definitely cheaper. The Universe version is usually like half the price of the Henkei, even when it's complete. As always, it's up to what you want and what you can afford. Honestly, I'm just biased because this one visually appeals to me on a much deeper level. It's just that deep metallic blue. So ignore all my wishy-washy nonsense, and if you want this guy, just get a version of the mold in whatever deco you think looks best. It'll be worth it. Anyway, that's enough about what I think. What do you all think of Henkei Onslaught? Or the mold in general? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be back to say more words about toys at you next time.